Welcome to the I Speak Fundy Biosphere series. We want to become more fluent when speaking about the fundy biosphere. In this series, we'll be covering everything from the sciences of ecology and forestry to climate action and even hiking, exploring, and tourism. Join us as together we learn how truly special the fundy biosphere is. Welcome to the Fundy Biosphere I Speak series. I am Ben Cummings, and today I have a special guest with me, Nate Gaffney, a photographer with me. Nate, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me, Ben.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for people who don't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a Wolastoqiyik First Nations landscape and wildlife photographer based out of Fredericton, New Brunswick. I've been shooting photography now for about 6 years, and I began my professional segment of my life when I started working for, believe it or not, a men's fashion company in Montreal. So I started photography kind of working in the fashion and portrait, kind of working with people. And then as I progressed, it became apparent to me that, you know what, I'm definitely more a nature kind of guy. And so I moved back to New Brunswick and began my journey with wildlife landscapes.
And if you don't follow him on Instagram, definitely check out some of his stuff, some of his pictures. Even I was just looking at one recently, is just beautiful. You take some amazing pictures and amazing landscapes as well. But what made you want to be or classify yourself as an Indigenous photographer?
Yeah. So, and thank you, by the way, for saying that. I think it's really, really important to me that I maintain a strong connection with my culture and also my identity, which is something that's a little bit tricky nowadays. So much of that culture was taken away, as many of you know. And for me, as a young Indigenous man, it's kind of difficult to connect to my culture sometimes. And so I find through photography and, being able to photograph these ancient lands that they actually, my ancestors actually got to use, I feel somehow more connected to it, and that's helped me a lot. It's given me a lot more purpose behind my photos, and so I think that's probably the main reason.
Now, there's a lot of talk recently and in the news, especially about the Indigenous people. Obviously, it's no secret what happened at the residential schools and what they're discovering. Not that we're finding out about, but that they're discovering all these bodies. But what are some things that culturally maybe that the layperson may not know about the Indigenous people, either here in New Brunswick or across Canada?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think a lot of the time, Eastern Indigenous culture gets mixed up with Western Indigenous culture. A lot of the time, it's easy to look at Indigenous people and kind of put them under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Even though there's multiple different cultures that exist here in New Brunswick that are far different from what you would find in the West. So I think, doing the work to identify which culture is which by looking at the language they speak, the practices that they do, the ceremonies they celebrate, and the history that's there, which you can research. Like those are all things that help reinforce the identity of those Indigenous cultures. And so I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. They just kind of see Indigenous people maybe as a collective.
Yeah.
And for example, so my father, he put together the Aboriginal Visual Arts program at the Craft College, and they did a history section. And for example, dream catchers are not actually an Eastern traditional thing.
Really?
Even though they're represented here and they're also sold here. Actually, I was looking at a yearbook the other day and it had a dream catcher right on the front of it. And I mean, and this is just a good example of how it's easy to kind of, lump that together.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and I would love to learn more. It's something that I feel unfortunate that I really haven't had a chance to dig into and learn a lot about the culture, because I feel like we're the Indigenous culture, especially here in the East, because we're not really taught it. And I grew up around a lot of people, the Mi'kmaq and the Maliseet, that I just never learned about the Indigenous culture here. And it's something that now, working for the Fundy Biosphere, I hope to dive a little bit more into. But other than that, you have been exploring a little bit. And of course, you take pictures in the Fundy Biosphere, which is why we're having you on. And what are some of the places that you visited recently that you just have loved taking pictures of or exploring?
Yeah, of course. The Bay of Fundy itself is just like a huge lure for me. It's, you know, you never know what you're going to go get when you go to take photos, and that's part of the excitement every single time. The Bay of Fundy is like perfect example of that, because there's constant wildlife that's just like circulating any given area within the biosphere itself. Recently, we went to Fundy National Park just for the weekend for a camping trip, and we woke up early one morning and we headed over to Alma. We were driving, just kind of like taking that corner past the information booth at Fundy National Park, and the amount of fog that had just completely engulfed Alma. But it was interesting because it was only kind of like shoreline and the cliff that was covered with fog, and behind it was like a sunny day, and it created this really, really brilliant like lighting condition. So I stopped the truck in the middle of the road, which I often do, but maybe shouldn't. And you know, and I hopped out and I had to take a photo of it. It was mind blowing. And even, you know, even more on top of that, I was standing on the side of the road, had my telephoto lens so I could zoom in on some of that juicy fog surrounding the trees, and an eagle just flies straight up in front of me.
Wow.
And you know, it's those moments that if you don't take, you'll miss something. So there's lots of those moments in the Fundy Biosphere for sure.
I feel bad driving with people sometimes because I'm the same way. Like, especially if my girlfriend or somebody else is driving, I'll be like, hit the brakes, let's go. I gotta take a picture now. I need to capture this. There was a fox that ran out in front of us the other day, and I was like, stop. And I'm like hopping out as she's still driving and rolling down the road. And I'm like, this is a bad idea. But okay. So for anybody who is sort of an amateur photographer who doesn't really have experience with a camera, do you have any tips or tricks for landscape or just taking pictures of animals, things like that?
Definitely. First tip is shoot as much as possible, like as much as possible. Yeah. I decided to do this challenge last year, and it was like a content creation challenge. Essentially, it was like you have to commit to 18 months of creating content, and the way that it structured was you had to post something on social media every single day. Maybe don't use social media, but the point of this is just to say like practicing every day works. So I didn't make it the whole 18 months, but I did do about a year of it, and which meant that I had to go shoot every single day. Wow. And there was like a consistent amount of progress in the photos that I was taking. And on top of that, you know, researching photography and finding your favorite photographers and listening to them speak about different techniques and composition and like all of these sorts of like technical abilities. If you can take all those technical abilities that you can learn online, educate yourself with, and then combine them with your own unique creative eye, then like you're going to start to see photography that you're really proud of and something that you can call your own.
Yeah, that's huge. I remember a couple of years ago, I heard somebody say just to always have a camera with you, just always. And I noticed that recently, that when I don't have either a video camera or a DSLR with me, I will see something. Every time I go out now without a camera, I seem to see a porcupine like right on the side of the road. And it's one of those times that I jump out with my phone and I'm like, this isn't doing it justice. It's just not the same.
No.
Where are some places that you would recommend people, some lesser known perhaps? I know some of our amazing places in the Fundy Biosphere, if you are familiar, are pretty well known either on either end, Cape and Rage, the sea caves and stuff like that. But are there hidden gems around that you like to go shoot?
Yeah, a lot of the hidden gems are probably right in your own backyard. Like when I started that challenge, I was just talking about, I was like, well, crap, where am I going to go shoot every single day? Yeah. You know, because visit the same beautiful spots so many times, and you know, it just gets boring. So, you know, I decided to just start exploring, and there was a lot of doubt there. It's like, well, I'm not going to find anything in this spot, but you go anyway, and you probably will find something in those kind of those spots you didn't think you were going to find anything in. And people will say like, where'd you take that photo? And it's like, well, just down the road off the highway here. It's like, no way that's there. Like, yeah, it's there. And then of course, like within the Fundy Biosphere, it's like, look at all that space you have to explore, you know? Like my biggest tip for finding spots that maybe haven't been found before that you can continue to go back to is like park your car, like make a little map or route and just go explore it. And maybe you come out with nothing, but if you can get one photo, then you'll probably, you know, call it successful. And it's kind of like fishing. Fishermen will say like catching a fish is just a bonus. Like for me, being outside, like absorbing nature, you know, clearing your mind, reconnecting to the land, all of those things are just, you know, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's super special to be able to, especially in New Brunswick, where we're blessed with so much nature around us. I've been across the country and I've seen some incredible places, but New Brunswick specifically is so nice that whether you're in Fredericton like you, or Woodstock or Moncton, you can drive 10, 15 minutes and you are in the complete middle of nowhere, which is absolutely beautiful. Yeah. Whereas other places in the world, or other places even in Canada, you can drive an hour and still be in the city center. So it's amazing here in New Brunswick to have that connection to nature.
Very lucky. Yeah. And another thing too is this might help you find some spots. Pick a subject that you want to shoot and try to go find that subject in multiple different places. So I did that last fall with cabins, and the amount of cabins that I discovered in the province was just insane. And I had seen a few before, but I didn't realize that there were so many. And of course, the fall foliage just brings them to life, right? So that was a lot of fun. So picking a subject and just going out to look for those subjects might help you discover a new place.
That, I think, was the first time I was actually introduced to your content, would have been your cabin stuff. Because I remember seeing it on, I think, the Hiking New Brunswick Facebook page or something like that it was shared. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I got to follow this guy. Awesome, Nate. I really appreciate it. Where can people find more about you and about your photography?
Yeah, for sure. So you can follow me on Instagram. It's just at Nate Gaffney. You can also go to my website, which is nategaffney.ca. I've got some cool blog stuff coming out there, so you can read about recent commissions that I've done. And you can check out all the different styles of work that I do that maybe aren't listed on social media pages. So that's a good spot for sure. And then Facebook, so Nate Gaffney Photography. And those are kind of my main 3 social outlets.
Awesome. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And for anybody listening at home, thank you for listening, and definitely check out what Nate is doing. Some of his stuff is incredible. Awesome. Thanks, Nate.
Excellent. Thanks, man.
For more information about the Fundy Biosphere, or to contact us, you can find us on social media or visit us at fundy-biosphere.ca.